Good day. Today again, I want to do another edition of my X review. The X review is a deep dive of the news items that I find on my X feed. Like I've always said, X is the veritable source of news in the world now. It's a marketplace for everybody who has something to share, and it is unlike the legacy media. It is not a place where so many voices are suppressed and censored. So today we'll dive in and take our look at the X review for today. Meanwhile, good day. If you're new to my channel, my name is Ebima Mungo. This is my channel, Ebima Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. If you have any comments regarding the opinions and views I expressed in this video, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Um, we will start today with the news of the first news we have here now is Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer immediately didn't waste time. This morning there was a drone attack on Ukraine from Russia. That is very common these days. But what happened was that drone attack, some of the drones moved into Belarus and moved into Poland. Poland is a NATO member, and Poland activated its air defense force and went to shoot down some of the drones from Russia. This is not a new thing. The commentators who watch the drone attack on Russia on Ukraine says that sometimes Russia floods the airspace with drones, make them go through a circuitous course that passes sometimes through Polish airspace. But in this particular case here, they seem to have had a situation where some of the drones were jammed by serious electronic jamming, and some went astray into Belarus and Poland. So immediately, the British Prime Minister, very gung-ho on support for Ukraine and very hawkish about Russia, put out a tweet this morning. This tweet is just barely an hour long ago, and he says, this morning, barbaric attack on Ukraine and the egregious and unprecedented violation of Polish and NATO airspace by Russian drones is deeply concerning. It was an extremely reckless move by Russia and only serves to remind us of President Putin's blatant disregard for peace and constant bombardment of innocent Ukrainians face every day. I have been in touch with the Polish minister this morning and to make clear our support for Poland and that we will stand firm on our support for Ukraine. My sincere thanks to NATO and Polish forces. Keir Starmer has been the most hawkish amongst all, the British, the French, and the Germans. But the British and French are having serious political problems. They use the Ukraine war to run away from domestic issues. And in this particular case here, Keir Starmer has his hands full. Economic problems. He has a growing rebellion from his um, his cabinet members in the backbenchers, and he uses this Ukraine war. The support the British have been giving to the Ukrainians has been unprecedented. Our next story here now is another great supporter of the Ukraine war, France. France is on fire, literally. There's demonstrations all across France, and there was the last government has just fallen, that of Beirut, and President Macron just appointed a new prime minister. But now the talk is about removing President Macron completely. The Marine Le Pen's party is organizing a day of protest, and already we are seeing some of these protests play out in some parts of France already. So this tweet here, block everything day action on September 10th against Macron, an ex-Rothschild banker controlled by Zionists, block everything movement, demonstrators block roads, set beams on fire, and clash with police over budget cuts and political turmoil. The French, in typical French style, have deployed their military, and it's really intense. There's a lot of chaos going on in Europe now, and France is also it's at the epicenter of it. Quite a lot of demonstrations going on that we don't get to see, but there is a lot of discontent in Europe at this moment in time now. That was just one of the realities we are seeing now regarding the situation in Paris and in France. The next one year we have is we seem, oh, it's on the post itself, so that's why. So we have the next story. Nepal tells US tech parasites to follow rules, queue, and the human rights meltdown. There's a lot of distress about what's going on in Nepal. Nepal has had a big set of demonstrations. Ultimately, they call it the Gen Z demonstration because it was an attempt to ban Gen Z users of social media from using their social media, but that has backfired very badly for them, and it has led to the burning of the parliament. It has led to the burning of the homes of so many politicians. There's a lot of distress going on, and there's chaos and confusion. The military is already planning on taking over in Nepal. Nepal has relatively been a quiet country, but people have complained about corruption. Nepal is one of those countries that have a lot of problems. They're nestled in between two big giants, China on the one hand, and then India on the other hand. But unfortunately for them, they don't have economic ties. They can't have a route into China because the Himalayas blocks that pathway. So their dealings has always been with India, and they've also been susceptible to the machinations of US government agencies that tend to overthrow governments like the US aid. Now we come to the next one. It says breaking. Qatar says US has betrayed it and supported Israel to strike its capital, Doha. This news here is the news that dominated the airwaves yesterday. Qatar was bombed. There was a negotiation between Hamas and Israeli and Americans with the Qataris mediating. But Israel launched a campaign, sent out 15 planes, shot 10 missiles, and killed quite 6 people. The Hamas put out a statement that their top leadership survived the attack, but Qatar has been gango, very unhappy about it. They feel that it's an American betrayal because America has the largest air base there. They control all the Qatari, to a large extent, the Qatari military infrastructure, and Qatar buys quite a lot of goods from military goods from America, especially including air defense goods, air defenses, Patriot missiles and all. If you go to the Middle East, you see these Patriot missiles pointed into the sky everywhere. They have THAAD systems, but that didn't help them. So they feel that there's complicity on the part of America in allowing the Israeli attack to take place. The next one is a tweet from Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. It's a long one, but it has a lot to do with what happened yesterday. More information is coming about the intrusion of Russian attack drones into Poland territory. As of now, it is known about 8 drones. Increasing evidence indicate that this movement, this direction of strike was no accident. There has been previous incidents of individual Russian drones crossing border and traveling short distance into neighboring countries, but this time we are recording a much larger scale. Ukraine is ready to provide Poland with all the necessary data available regarding the Russian strike. Ukraine is ready to help Poland build an effective system to warn this. I should point out that Ukraine has had a very strong interest in drawing countries like Poland closer into the war. In fact, the last Polish Prime Minister Duda, or the president, he was saying specifically, accused Zelensky of wanting to draw NATO into the war because there was a time that one Russian drone was shot over Poland, and he insisted that it should trigger Article 5 of NATO so that NATO can become a member, a part of the war. Ukraine has an interest. Volodymyr Zelensky has been doing everything to draw NATO into this war. And this action or this movement of some drones into Poland is definitely an opportunity for them. We had a situation yesterday where the Ministry of Defense of the UK yesterday had a meeting, and they had some meetings, and yeah, they came out with a statement about what's going on there now. This one is Russia's actions are reckless, unprecedented, and dangerous. We condemn them. Putin's aggression only strengthens the unity of NATO nations and solidarity, and we stand with Ukraine and secure Europe needs. This is from the Ministry of Defense of the United Kingdom. We had already done a statement, seen a statement from Keir Starmer. Let's listen in to what
Kamish has rightly headed home to Poland very early this morning to deal with this attack. Russia's actions are reckless, unprecedented, and dangerous. We totally condemn these attacks. And we say to President Putin, your aggression only strengthens the unity between NATO nations. And we will discuss this morning what additional support we can provide to Poland.
Yeah, that's all they can do. The only thing they can do is they can talk. They cannot do anything beyond talking, because the way I look at it, they really don't have any leverage over the Russians, the whole of Europe. At this time when America is stepping away, this, if it was an American response, we'll be worried, but this is a European response. They are puny in NATO. They have no arms. They have no weapons. They have no empire anymore to send 1 million Africans and 3 million Indians into war. This particular war has exposed the real position of Europe. And as America is stepping away from involvement in NATO in Europe, it is left to countries like Britain and Germany and France to posture and say that they can fight Russia, but the truth is they just can't. Russia is not even looking for a fight with them. Putin is much more engaged and entrenched in trying to develop his country. People should remember where Russia was 30 years ago. They were a broken country. Now they are now the biggest country in the economy of Europe there by purchasing power parity. The next story we have here now is a story. It continues on that attack in Doha yesterday. This is statement Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Qatar delivers to United Nations Secretary General Israeli attack. This is a quick one. They have sent a message to the United Nations Secretary General about what happened, and it was dated 10th. The state of Qatar delivered on Wednesday a message to His Excellency the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, and to the Excellency Sergei Kim, the charge d'affaires at the Permanent Mission of Republic of Korea to the United Nations and President of the Council regarding the cowardly Israeli attack that targeted residential building housing several members of the Hamas political team. The message was delivered by His Excellency. The Qataris have been posturing seriously. They are really angry. They've said they reserve the right to retaliate against Israel. I wonder what form that retaliation would take, considering that all those leaders there are completely and totally under the subservience of America. And we all know that America at this point in time is very much weighted in favor of Israel in any action Israel takes. We have the next story from Europe and their actions and response to the events in Gaza. Europe today has put some form of sanctions on Israel. I won't call it sanctions. They just stopped some discussions with Israel because what's going on in Gaza has really pricked the conscience of a lot of people. And today, Kaja Kallas, for the very first time, I'm sure she's really, really impatient to leave this podium because she has only one agenda in that European Commission, which is the Russian agenda, destruction of Russia as she sees it. So now she had to make a statement today. Kaja Kallas, as we know, is the High Representative of the EU representing foreign affairs. And let's listen into some of her statements.
Peace process to work with the External Action Service and DG ECHO to engage directly with Israel to open the gates of Gaza of humanitarian assistance. Not a single truck entered a Gaza Strip from March to July. Since our humanitarian understanding with Israel, there have been some positive developments. 2,000.
Kalas has changed. Armenia has changed. It's not hawkish. It's not as the one that we see whenever she addresses matters that have to do with Russia. She is putting up a different face to show that the European Union has another agenda. They have some consideration of what's going on in Gaza. They are very complicit in it. All the countries in Europe are particularly complicit in all that is going on in Gaza because none of them can stand up to. Spain has been making some comments. Ireland has been making some comments, but it's not been really enough. We have a statement here. Former senior fellow of the Institute of National Security, Andrew Boren, talks about how BRICS has caused a tectonic shift in the geopolitical balance. We are witnessing a change in configuration of the world order. Vladimir Putin is trying to come to the forefront and lead the authoritarian group of dictators and which includes Iran, North Korea, and People's Republic of China. There's been a lot of talk from the countries of, especially America, as regards to what's going on with BRICS. BRICS is the association that is bringing together a lot of countries in the global south, and India, Brazil, China, and Russia are leading that effort. But we know that North Korea is not part of it. It may just be talking about what happened with the parade, when North Korea took part in the parade. But indeed, a lot of American policymakers, not including the president, are not particularly happy with what's going on with BRICS. This year is Elon Musk. Elon Musk does features prominently on X. He is the owner of X, we should remember, and then he has the largest amount of following. At the last count, he had about 200 million followers on X. Him alone is a media organization that swarms every other media organization. But because of his great genius and ability to invent
To be
things
clear,
and
we're not going to put the other.
things, what he says is usually listened to. In this interview, Starlink is not going to be put in other mobile carriers out of business. To be clear, we are not going to put other carriers out of business. They're still going to be around because they own a lot of spectrum. Yes, this year is because recently Elon Musk bought a company for $16 billion that will give them access to spectrum. That means that they can be fully in control of the distribution of their services to carriers. And this is causing a lot of concern. People have always been saying that Elon Musk may want to one day start a telephone company, something like Apple, but he has denied it. Let's hear what he said here.
The carriers out of business, they're still going to be around because they own a lot of spectrum. So but yes, you should be able to have a Starlink like you have an AT&T or T-Mobile, or Verizon, or whatever. You could have a account with Starlink that works with your Starlink antenna at home for your Wi-Fi as well as on your phone, and it would be a comprehensive solution.
Starlink has been a big game changer all over the world. Now, Starlink is that investment nobody saw coming. He used the fact that he has ability to put spacecrafts go into space much cheaper, and then he has this constellation of over now, as last count is about 7,000 to 8,000 satellites. And the Starlink is a game changer now. We now have Starlinks in aeroplanes, Qatar Air, Emirates, and United is about to start running their own version of Starlink Wi-Fi in their planes. But we know what Starlink is doing to underserved countries like in Africa, Malawi, Nigeria. So many places are now using Starlink very much, and their services is very much appreciated. We have here Secretary of Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent put out a tweet. What did he say? He said the Federal Reserve is among the most drivers of inequality in America. By failing to deliver on its inflation mandate, the Fed allowed class and generational disparity to grow worse, expanding the divide between asset owners and lower income. The Fed must regain its independence and stop serving the wealthy at the expense of the Scott Bessent and President Trump have been very, very unhappy with Powell, the leader, the chairman of the Fed. They want him to reduce interest rate. American interest rate went up. There is the backlash on a lot of countries that came out of the Ukraine war is beyond belief. The increase in price of gas and the banning of or sanctioning of Russia affected America in a way that we are not seen in a generation. Inflation went up to very high numbers, and the Feds decided that they will increase interest rate. Another thing too that also affected America is that Biden, in trying to bring down wage inflation, opened up the borders, brought in 10 million people, many from Venezuela, Haiti, and Cuba. And that also led to the fact that America now has this system where people who support Trump continue to say that the immigration system had been abused. They want the Fed to reduce interest rate. Fed has refused, Powell has refused, and they're attacking him unrelentingly because there's inflation. They don't want to believe that it has anything to do with the tariffs regime that they are putting out, because we know that these tariffs are a charge on the consumers, not as they think that is a charge on the countries, based on the consumers in America. The next story here is from Mario Nawal. Mario Nawal is very prolific. He's the largest show on X investor, 600 startups. He indeed is a very prolific poster on X. And here he says Russia reportedly used Polish and Lithuanian SIM cards in their drones. This is the discussion we have already had. The technology that Russia was using is one that allows them to overfly these countries, and then get into those corners of Ukraine that many people are surprised at how they continue to reach those places. Last count, Russia sent out 800 drones, and a lot of it went into the western part of Ukraine. And western part of Ukraine, the strategy is that the Russians send this through an overhead of these countries ahead that we just talked about. Carl is another very, very popular person on X. He is a Chinese commentator, and he has a podcast on YouTube that is quite popular. And he always comments mainly from geopolitically from China's stand-up point of view, but it's also a very satirical in his view sometimes. Here he says Qatar bought 2.5 million air defense system from Raytheon back in 2018. We just said Qatar, all the Middle Eastern countries are sort of like the boogeyman in the Middle East used to be Iran. So that made a lot of countries to lean heavily on American weaponry. They buy a lot. I live in Saudi Arabia, and I go through these cities, and you will see this machinery all over the place. And we should remember too that one of the things that happened to us when Libya fell apart was that they had this large arms cache. Libya had vast amount of arms from Soviet Union, and that's the arm that is destabilizing most of the Sahel now, because it fell into the hands of the Al Qaeda in West Africa and all those other towering and groups in the Sahel region. So these countries tend to accumulate a lot of weapons. But yeah, he's being satirical. He says that they bought from Raytheon. They buy a lot from American companies. We saw Trump just visited, and they bought quite a lot of arms from them, but they were not very effective. Qatar's Raytheon signs a deal, reflects burgeoning military relationship with Washington, Doha says. The next story is U.S. aid had its tentacles in Nepal. We've already discussed this one. The U.S. aid we have found from Trump's investigation is the institution that they use in doing a lot of harm to countries. Elon Musk continues to put out a lot of tweets. He's very unhappy about crime in America. He has his opinions about so many things. And in this case here now, and whenever he takes an issue, he's very dogged on it. The murder rate spike up dramatically around 2020. He continues to say that lax policies of countries of democratic states have created a situation where crime rate is very high in America, and this is another of those charts that show the people who are involved in crime, the races. These are controversial topics that you probably will not hear people talk about, but data doesn't lie. So he puts out this thing there now, and he supports any actions that will be strong actions that will be taken against crime in America. Oh, Chebos is another big on Twitter. I think he is Russia-based Irish and Moscow-based Irish journalist, history strategist. Facts should define narrative. The narrative shouldn't be define the facts. He too is very critical of the ongoing goings on in Ukraine, and he puts out all these news sometimes. Here we see the construction team have chased a Ukrainian into a hospital. Maybe he ran in there to take refuge and pretend he's a patient. So he says Zelensky manhunters are now driving patients out of hospitals to the front. All this talk of freedom and democracy in Paris and London. This is all a model of how EU British citizens will be treated if they're allowed to start a war with Russia. It is We see these images every day. There are a lot of them. The conspirators in UK have been very in Ukraine have been very hard on their people. They're trying to get them to join the war. Ukraine is having a serious manpower shortage, and they're scraping and trying to get everybody. The other day, they allowed some group of people, 17 to 24, I think, to leave the country, and instantly over 10 to 20,000 young men left Ukraine. They don't want to be part of the war. The war is a losing proposition for now. A lot of people are dying. We see huge cemeteries all over Kiev and all the surrounding cities of Ukraine. So most times they go and they get killed, and they don't want to join the war. The zone is another one that is very hawkish against us, against Israel, mainly the activities of the Israeli regime of Netanyahu. They put out a lot of the things. They hold him to account. They call him out on a lot of things. Recently, Australia made some statements, and Australia expelled some Iranians, claiming that it was a thief, because they were beginning to have problems with Israel. I think one or two Australian ministers condemned what was going on in Israel, but Netanyahu had some strong words against them, but Albanese decided to deflect. He said Australia has refused to provide evidence of its claim that Iran was behind a series of attacks on Jewish centers in the country. A recent report reveals that Israel was responsible for the tiff-off, which pinned the blame on Iran. So the reach of Israel in undermining many locations where these other countries are is very high. So they expel some of their journalists, and but they won't say how they got the information. Daniel Panchenko, she used to have a journalist of the year in Ukraine. She used to have 2 million followers on YouTube in Ukraine, and her channel was closed down. She's very critical of the Ukrainian government. The war is systemically moving from Ukraine to Europe. Combat drones are already in Polish territory. This is the last chance for Zelensky. The front in Ukraine is collapsing. Polish citizens will face a bloody future. They are next. All of humanity is at risk. Of course, we know that if the countries of NATO decide to put boots on ground in Ukraine, this is maybe a narrative that shows that they are trying to move slowly towards putting boots on ground in Ukraine. The response of Russia will be very telling. We know that Russia will not tolerate it. They may use their Oreshniks, but they could also use tactical nuclear weapons because they see that war in Ukraine as an existential threat. I just have 1 more minute, and this will be it. If we didn't get, this is also another Twitter account that does a lot of geopolitics. If we didn't get them this time, we'll get them next time. This is Israel's ambassador to the US after the Doha strike, casually suggesting more assassinations is coming up. Yeah, Israel has assassinated in many places. Nasrallah, they have decapitation strikes they carry out all across the Middle East there, because they have the access to all the weaponry and all the logistics that the West has. They get their planes refueled in the air by British and by American planes. They get support from, they share intelligence with the CIA. And since that fracturer's attack on Doha, the prime minister, the Hamas has come out to say that their leadership survived. Interestingly, I must put here now, we got information that it was actually Turkish intelligence, Erdogan, that informed Hamas very quickly, a few minutes before the strike, that the Israelis were coming to strike them. So it obviously seems to have been that it is the Turkish intelligence or Erdogan that saved Hamas, and they got that vital few minutes they used to escape. That's why not many of them were killed. Just before I go, let me put this out again. Let's watch it again.
Hamas terrorists are on notice. They are going to be eliminated.
Mr. Ambassador, understand that and the history. Obviously, Israel is under attack constantly. In this case, Qatar officials and Hamas leadership is saying that you did not get the targets you were seeking. They are obviously condemning this attack as attacking inside an allied country to the U.S. The U.S. here at the White House expressing concern that it did not advance the goals of the U.S. or Israel. And you have the Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, with very pointed statements in condemnation. So did you get the targets you were seeking?
If we didn't get them this time, we'll get them the next time. Israel under Prime Minister Netanyahu is changing the face of the Middle East. We have degraded.
Yes, it really is changing the face of Middle East. It's making problems for everybody. This is where I'll end my video for today. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. I will continue to take these deep dives on X News. It's a free one. It really gives us a bigger understanding of the issues in the news there. And I hope you like this format. This will be my third or fourth one. I'll continue to do it. Call it X Review. Thank you very much for being with me. If you have any comments regarding the views I expressed, please put them in the comment section. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. Do well to like and share. Until I see you in my next video. Goodbye.